100 points. What does that mean? It means perfection, right? So, you know, there are others who sell wine who will put in their title 98-point vintage and feature a wine that's crap, basically. Because you can make crap at a 98-point vintage if you don't know what you're doing. Those kind of things, they kind of disturb us here at Wine Exchange because we really like to speak what's true in the wine world. We don't like to have hyperboles and to, make things up, hey, look at this 98-point vintage crappy wine. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So, but 100 points is 100 points, okay? And it's not a 100-point vintage, it's a 100-point wine. I don't know what to say about Le Mission Brion. Essentially, it should be a first growth. It has all the makings of a first growth. It's across the street from Brion, which is a first growth. It is owned by Clarence Dillon, who owns Brion, and they vinify the wines the same. If you go back and taste great vintages of Le Mission Brion, sometimes it's even better than Brion. I mean, I did a tasting of 89s not too long ago, and the 89 Le Mission was actually better than the 89 Brion. In fact, 89 Le Mission Brion is one of those wines that is now selling for $2,000 a bottle. And probably in 89, it was selling for $50 on release. So you talk about like a collector wine that is kind of always not quite up to where Brion is, like Big Brother. Now, I don't want to say in flavor, but just in notoriety, because Brion is a first growth and Le Mission is not a first growth. So 2020 Le Mission Brion. William Kelly, one of the most difficult guys to impress when it comes to wine and score, gave this wine 100 points. I remember tasting this and thinking to myself, wow, this is what I look for in Le Mission Brion. Well, first of all, I love this wine. It's so good. And I wish I could open it and taste it, but we don't have that much of it, so I must just talk about it. But I can remember very well what it tastes like. And, in my wine career, which has been long and vast, this has been one of those wines that when I taste a great bottle of Le Mission Brion, it just, there's nothing like it in the world. There's nothing like it. And for us to actually have bottles of this wine for sale is quite amazing, to be honest with you. And I think a lot of it was during the time of COVID. We just happened to get more than we normally get. We're gonna offer this to you. And we don't have a ton of it, but we have enough. And if you're a collector or somebody that just appreciates great wine, this wine at under $400 is truly one of the greats of all greats. I mean, when you think of like Harlan at $800 and $900, maybe $1,000, and Screaming Eagle at $2,000, and these wines have pedigree for sure, and they taste great, but they don't have the history as Le Mission Brion. They just don't. I mean, and this wine is under $400. It's like priced where some of these Super Napa, Cabernets are priced at. But nothing will give you the pleasure that this wine gives you. So let's talk a little bit about this wine. So essentially, Le Mission Brion is right across the street from Brion. It's really an equal parts blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. So we're talking 48% Cabernet Sauvignon, 44% Merlot, and the rest Cabernet Franc. But it gets all the royal treatment. Top barrels, 80% new oak, Let's see, they age it for 20 months in that new and 1-year-old oak. It's all hand-picked, hand-harvested. It all the best of the best of the best of the best. But the bottom line is 2020, I think, will go down as a vintage in our history. And so whether you're a collector or not, I think when you look at 2020 as a year in this world, it was quite a challenging year for basically all of us, when we had COVID and everything else. So when you look at old vintages of Bordeaux, like the collector year, the year of the Comet, or the year of World War II, finished, or, there's always like something, 2000, the millennium year, 2020, I think, is going to go down as one of those years. As for collectors, it'll always be remembered as, the year of the plague or the year of the COVID, whatever you want to call it. But, not only is this a great wine in its own merit, not only should be a first growth, it is, when Livex did their thing, they would reclassification, Le Mission was a first growth. It's one of my favorite wines in Bordeaux. It's literally, when you have a great bottle of Mission, it is just an experience you cannot forget. And not to mention the fact, Robert Parker, we all remember him, one of the greatest wine reviewers ever. When Parker spoke, people listened, right? He said he has more bottles of Le Mission Brion in his cellar than any other wine. That tells you something. So, again, we don't have a ton of it, but I'm telling you right now, buy a bottle, buy 2, buy 3, whether you hold it, whether you drink it, whatever you do, it is absolutely an outstanding bottle of wine. You know what to do.